Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Mace. I'm coming to you from Canada, home of the most polite people ever. Pretty much, Canadians saying sorry. Name a bigger dynamic duo. This video is titled "Why the Dutch Always Say What They Mean." So I didn't know that the Dutch were very direct, or they had a certain direct. I always think, when I think about directness and just speaking without a filter, I usually think, just when people bring that up, they have no filter. They just say what they say what they think. I think of Kramer from Seinfeld, right? He's the nose job. Remember the girl? She's very, very pretty. She's very, very, very pretty. But she's got a bigger nose. And he says, "Oh, you're a pretty girl. You just need a nose job." All right, let's check this out.
"I'm afraid I can't make it because I'd be travelling there especially for you," a Dutch contributor recently responded to a meeting request. Blunt and very honest, a stark contrast to how we speak in the UK.
British people and Americans and others to some extent tend to sort of dance around the issues.
If you are vague or not direct, then people will say, well, come on, let's be honest so we can move on.
Yeah, totally. Let's cut to the chase. Let's put the eggs on the table and get them scrambled to the proper position so we're all benefiting.
I was born in the Netherlands but grew up in the UK, so I've always noticed the two extremes: British politeness and Dutch directness.
Just say what you mean.
How much truth is there to this stereotype?
Why are the Dutch so
Dutch
direct?
are known as being direct, which means that the messages are quite precise and clear. They say what they mean what they say. So yes is really yes, and yet no is really no. Tomorrow is really tomorrow. Whereas in most other countries, the communication style is indirect.
Yeah, maybe always means no, possibly means probably not. The Dutch people tend to be much more, what they would say, recht door zee, straightforward, telling things how it really is, which can come as a bit of a surprise to outsiders.
Author Ben Coates grew up in the UK but has lived in the Netherlands for over a decade.
I remember just in my first couple of weeks living in the country, I went and got a haircut and then went back to work afterwards. And the first thing one of my colleagues said was, "It looked better before you went for a haircut."
Dutch directness comes from a long history of diplomacy, which benefits the Netherlands to this day.
The direct communication style is part of the consensus culture.
The Netherlands was formed based on Calvinist roots going back hundreds of years, became a great trading nation and a very successful wealthy nation during the 17th century golden age. You have a political culture which is extremely focused on consensus and compromise here.
So people learn to share ideas and come up with own opinions. And it was needed to be honest about your ideas and your thoughts and your opinions so they could find out.
Being honest about your ideas, right? Being articulate, being able to articulate those ideas in such a way that's eloquent enough for people to understand what you mean, right? Thinking. That's what we should all do more. Thinking, less screen time, more reading, more learning. You gotta keep your mind sharp. But yeah, that's interesting. That, the cultural differences that arise.
Without a common solution. And that still is. It is deep-rooted and it's still a part of the communication style.
I went to meet business psychologist
that.
Aukje Nauta, who explains that this cultural stereotype means the Dutch sometimes come across as rude.
I think that the Dutch are perceived as more direct because we use less often words like please, could you please, should you, and that explains why we come across as less polite. In the Netherlands, being polite is as important as in England.
It's meant to be honest and clear, but it's often perceived as being rude and even arrogant.
The reason why cultural comparisons are problematic is that it leads to stereotyping.
She's got a good point there. It leads to stereotypes because they're not blanket stereotype, they're not blanket modes of behavior. You're gonna have a full range of different behaviors and different communication styles within both cultures, right?
Means that when you look at a Dutch person as very rude and direct, you are not that curious about what kind of person he or she is. And I think it's important to be curious after each other, because then you can make much better connections than when you put someone in a box instead of being really interested in a person.
When it comes to everyday conversations, this expectation of directness can result in some unfortunate misunderstandings.
Well, the Netherlands, when they speak and learn English and when they translate the English language, they will literally translate it. If you have a business proposal and the Englishman or woman says, well, that's very interesting, I will have a look at it, we really translate that, oh, that's interesting, so they are interested. While it could also mean, well, I'm not interested and it's a bad idea.
You can never just straight up say that someone's work is not good. That instinct is quite deeply ingrained in British society. It also extends to just trying to avoid causing offence and always saying things in the nicest possible way.
Yeah, humans can be so awkward, right? Like I used to run into that at work. Like, okay, I just need to tell this person they're doing it wrong, or tell this person they could do it a different way, or tell this person, hey, I appreciate your input. I think I appreciate you bringing this idea forth, but it's not a good idea. Like, how do we communicate? How do we communicate in a way that's not going to cause offense or not cause friction in a business or a work relationship, when at the end of the day, all we want is the best for them, the best for us, the best for whatever the situation is. So like, it's not a big deal, but sometimes, you know, you'll see two people, they'll even have like a little argument or something, when really one person's just trying to help the other. So it's like, how do we communicate better?
And then the challenge for Dutch people is to find out what the real meaning of the words is. And we can both speak English, but it doesn't mean that we get the real message.
For example, there's a British sort of tick of saying, oh, you must come for dinner, or we must do it again sometime soon, when obviously the last thing you mean is that that person should come for dinner next week, whereas Dutch people would naturally, inevitably tend to take those kind of statements more literally, I think, and the invitation will be in your inbox the next day.
And also, of course, for the people in the UK, it's challenging to not be that shocked because of the directness.
A British person would see sort of hedging around.
It's so funny, yeah, that's so right. How people do that sometimes, like you have dinner or something maybe once every 3 months, but then you say, oh yeah, I gotta pop over in the next couple weeks, or like, yeah, stop by sometime. And it's like, what does sometime mean, right? Like you say it to be nice, but me, like I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with people. Even like I'm definitely more of a homebody now. Like I like staying at home. I was at a stag party last weekend and it was great. It was so much fun. But like when I got home, I was like, oh, thank God. Even though I enjoyed my time and it was great seeing, you know, friends that I don't see as often as I used to, but you still want to get home. And I prefer me, my wife, family and friends, but I only have so much time for just humans in general. Like I want to be out in the woods. I'm totally fine spending time alone. So
issue or politeness and civility, whereas a Dutch person might see the same thing as being actually dishonest. It's not just undesirable, but actually an unpleasant thing to do for a Dutch person.
You can see traces of this type of transparency all over the Netherlands. How people queue, leave curtains open for passers-by to peep inside, and even how they normalise nudity.
I think to some extent the Dutch are less prudish than the British when it comes to swimming naked or going to saunas or those kind of things. Go to a popular beach in the Netherlands on a sunny day and you sometimes feel like there's more naked people there than people with swimming costumes on.
When you can't show your body, the consequence is you associate nude bodies with sexuality. Whereas when you change clothes at the beach and you see a little bit of nakedness, then it's just ordinary. It normalizes a naked body.
Although I should say, I think it's hard to be more prude than the British when it comes to that stuff. So I'm not sure how much of it is just the Dutch being more normal and the British being excessively prude, but there probably is a big difference there.
So if you really want something, just say it how it is. Just be aware that some people may mistake your honesty for rudeness. And remember, if you say, we must meet for dinner to a Dutch person, They really will expect an invite.
We must meet for dinner. Okay, when? Nude beaches? Yeah, I don't know. You guys can let me know there. I think normalizing nudity is good and not being so prudish like North American audiences, right? There's a famous kind of perception that like you can blow a body in half and blood everywhere and machine guns and war scenes. It's totally fine for, you know, kids, whatever. Oh, but you show some nudity or like, right? Like some boob and people are like, oh my God, or yet alone more on screen, people get crazy. But yeah, I've never been to a nude beach. I've never been, I don't know. Like, it's just, yeah, it would be kind of strange. Just culturally, it's just wouldn't really be, it would make people uncomfortable here. It's just what it is. I mean, obviously there's nude beaches, but it's not something that I would personally do. I think just having that freedom of choice, like, right? Freedom of choice. But I think the normalization of it is great. That, and she was right. Like, it's been ingrained so much here that if now somebody is naked, like, it's potentially sexualized, right? So I don't know. It's a cool video. Interesting stuff. Those little cultural ticks and cultural differences. Super, super interesting to ponder and look at. All right, we'll see you all soon. I put myself small for this video, just trying it out. And yeah, peace out.